All right. We are starting in. Let me adjust that real quick. There we go. Okay. Starting in 5, 4, 3.
Gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for January 29th, 2025. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, there was a shakeup in the PlayStation C-suite, and Xbox has seemingly bought its way to the top of the gaming heap. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Lexi Luddy, everybody. Lexi, how are you doing?
Grubb, I just spent over €100 on things for changing my name legally.
Yeah,
and then on
fun.
top of that, I also spent about €1,000 on booking flights to Japan. So if anyone wants to hire a freelance writer, now would be a great time for me.
Let's make it happen. Let's pay for Japan. Let's pay for all the paperwork. It always happens all at once, right? It's like, oh man, I was feeling flush, and then oh no, all of these things stacked up at the same time.
So the Japan thing was like, I was kind of like, I've always wanted to do an actual holiday travel on my own, and I've never done that.
Sure.
And I haven't actually been on holiday since 2017 with like my family. So I was like, listen, I have to do this. And then I looked at Japan and I was like, that's fucking expensive. So now I'm like, okay, what about I go for 3 weeks and one of the weeks is TGS.
Yeah.
And I make back some money on that. And I have some friends in Japan who I can hang out with for the other 2 weeks. So that's what I'm doing. And then the name change stuff. Let's just say global politics has changed in such a way that I'm preempting any potential wind changes in Irish politics.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, you've seen seen enough shifts to know anything can happen.
Yeah.
Usually the bad
allies,
stuff.
Yeah, or good allies across the pond, either side of across the pond.
Sure, in any direction.
Yeah, are really both changing their opinions on certain things at a government level. So I was like, I should get this done sooner rather than later.
Yep, it's kind of it's all rapidly falling apart. Hey, they can't just let everybody know they can't turn me against you. They're only making me more on your side. I don't know why they do these things, but no, we're with you, and we're going to stand with you no matter what. So. It's getting rotten out here, Lexi, in the old US of A. Not feeling very fond of this place at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna do our best to kind of keep our heads up and take care of each other as best we can. But you know that I'm glad that you're getting ahead of it. You take care of yourself first, and we'll be there to have your back as best we can.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. How else are things going?
I was like, January was super quiet for the first 3 quarters of it. It was super, super quiet because there were no games coming out, and we did a shitload of work with Start Menu for our Winter Spectacular. We had pieces going up every single day. We put up like 39 pieces over the course of a month, all of which for a website that like doesn't run ads and doesn't have any like real money coming in is a lot. So I was really burnt out after that, and then like not having anything to work on in January was a bit like, oh shit, like there's no work right now. And then I look around at like freelancing budgets, and everyone's like, we're already out of budget for the year, which is really great. Thankfully, there's a couple of games coming out now. So I reviewed Orcs Must Die Death Trap for Shack News.
How'd you find that?
Didn't like it.
Yeah.
Super didn't dig it. It's one of those games where the more I played, the more I was like, oh man, it's just, I talk about it in my review, but it's a weird game because it's $25 and there's no microtransactions in it, but the like measure progression treadmill is such a slog that you must assume there were plans to like for you to be able to pay to fast track it, because there's like after 20 hours I've barely made any progression in that game. It's just everything is so slow to upgrade. And then I'm reviewing another game which I don't think I can talk about, but I finished it last night and it was excellent, and it is something that is going to fuck Jan up. Really going to fuck Jan in particular up. It's his shit. And then I'm reviewing Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii next month, so that'll be good.
Oh, good.
And next month is super fucking busy because lots of games coming out. Suddenly there's like 15 games on the release schedule for next month, so it's going to be busy.
Yeah, and there's as I started looking around, I'm like, oh, there's some games right now, but it's not like next month. Next month is like, oh, you can't ignore those games. This is like Sniper Elite Resistance or Orcs Must Die, and I think it's easy for a lot of people if they're not in the mood or they don't want to spend money to just sort of overlook those. I thought that's just the kinds of games that they are. So yeah, it'll pick up in February, and it doesn't feel like it's going to let off until summer. And even then, we'll see. There's probably plenty of games still to get announced. In the meantime, let's do a show and explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with PlayStation leadership shakeup sees new sole CEO in charge. This is from Darren Bontheus at GameSpot. Just going to read through this, and then we'll kind of talk about what I heard about this. Sony Interactive Entertainment is switching from co-CEO system, currently occupied by Hideaki Nishino and Herman Holst, to just one person in charge. Nishino has been promoted to sole CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment and will step into this role starting April 1st, 2025. Holst will continue to serve as CEO of the studio's business group, reporting directly to Nishino. It has been a pleasure working more closely with Herman and Nishino and gaining insight into the ever-changing, fast-paced world of Sony Interactive Entertainment, CFO Hiroki Totoki said in a press statement. As we hand the baton to Nishino and this exceptional leadership team, I am confident that SIE will reach new heights in the days ahead. Let's stop here. This is what it's actually about. People, I think completely fairly, are looking at this as like, oh man, Herman Holst got kicked to the side, and is this because of Concord and all this? And of course, they are changing things up inside of Sony because of Concord. That clearly did happen. This is more about seemingly, no, I can't confirm this actually, but like this seems like it's more about getting Totoki out of PlayStation and back on the path to taking over Sony entirely as an entire corporation.
It was kind of weird that he came in and became the head of PlayStation, considering he was so high up in Sony itself.
Exactly. So this was always a detour for him, where he was like, okay, Jim Ryan made some choices. I'm going to go in there and get my hands dirty on this thing. PlayStation is the golden goose for Sony, and in many, many ways pays for a lot of the bills. So getting there and getting a really good understanding of PlayStation going to be beneficial to eventually becoming CEO of Sony, which seems like the path that he's on. And then also making sure that cleaning up any messes and understanding what the path is going to be going forward. So this is about Nishino stepping up into the space that was previously occupied by Totoki, and Herman Holst's role is pretty much untouched. I think they even say he's still CEO of the studio group, just not CEO of, Holst will continue to serve as CEO of the studio business group, reporting directly to Nishino. So he's reporting to Nishino, and that might sound like a demotion, but I think this is more just like things shifting around slightly, and all of the same things will continue to happen as they were in the last several months, basically. Do you read anything else into this?
Yeah, I mean, the way that they kind of had that original partnerships, the co-CEO partnership split up, was like Nishino was head of the platform and Holst was head of the studios, and in that relationship you can already kind of see how Holst would kind of be reporting to that guy. Like, it is going to be the system that leads the developers in some ways, because the next system is what limits the developers or what enables them and things like that. And I'm sure this probably changes the dynamic of the C-suite relationship between those two. And it might not feel great that someone has just gotten a title promotion over you and now you're reporting to them after working with them directly. But I don't think in material terms this changes a whole lot about the day-to-day of Sony, other than taking Totoki out of it and placing him on the Sony side. It seems like he has really reasserted the people who he wants in charge. And you look at the amount of things that were culled in the last 6 months under him, he clearly cleaned house in a very serious way of he was not happy with the projects that had been greenlit or that were currently in production, and whether stopping production on all of those is the right call is impossible to say if you haven't seen those games and if you don't know how long in development they are. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, you know, that Blue Point game must have been nearly done, because like Demon Souls came out in 2020. So it must have, like, 5 years, it must have been getting
development. Yes, deep into development.
Yeah, it must have been getting ready in some shape or form, and it must have been like playable in some shape or form. So those are like big calls to make, to not release stuff like that. And I think that's a testament to how much Sony has seen the water dry up from this particular well that they thought was like overflowing. And it turns out, no, there's a lot of water in that well, but like only 3 or 4 people are actually pumping it. And you're not going to be able to like start pumping it there yourself, because they're just going to kick you out of the space. Yeah. So yeah, it's a weird one.
This is I mean, I think you nailed it, where it's like Todoki seemed to be doing the thing that, like, after Riccatello, when Riccatello left EA or was fired by EA, and then they had that long gap before they hired Andrew Wilson as CEO, and they had an older CEO kind of come in as the chairman and basically just clean house and cut a ton of jobs and did a bunch of dirty work that would have looked really bad for a new CEO, just kind of going there and ripping apart everything in there and leaving kind of a husk, but a streamlined husk that would make it easier for a new leadership team to kind of come in and make decisions. Kind of feels like that's what happened here, where Todoki's like, listen, I will take the brunt of making these harsh choices to cancel a lot of games people have been working on for years. I will set up a new sort of baseline for you to work from. Now you go make the positive decisions to greenlight things going forward, and you can have something of a fresh start. Nishino, someone who has been with PlayStation for a long time, probably has a lot of good relationships. And the idea now is, okay, build a future for PlayStation, a new future for PlayStation, separate from the one that we thought we were going to be building and was completely wrong.
Yeah, I think something that like has been very, and you've talked about it before, about like the games industry has had massive growth for such a long time, and now it's having to reckon with not having as big growth. Like, the games industry has always been a dirty business because it's a business. Like, all businesses are dirty businesses in that sense. And suddenly you feel it a lot more when you're not making money, or when you're not making as much money as people want you to. So I think that's kind of the reckoning that's happening here, is the readjustment of things aren't as good as they once were. Even if they're still good, it's fucking shit. It's really bad.
Absolutely. There is a little bit of a read on this from PlayStation fans, where they're happy to be like, okay, Nishino's in charge, not Herman Holst. Herman Holst seemed to be big on live service games, and this is how they're reading it. I don't necessarily agree with this, but they're like, Herman Holst was the live service guy, and Nishino has been with PlayStation since like 2000. He's an old school guy, so this means that we're going to get more of the kinds of games that we really want. I mean, I think that they probably are going to get more of the games that they probably want, but out of a necessity of they don't know what else to make. Do you think that there's anything to that? Like, how much of a live service guy do you really peg as a Herman Holst?
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at it, Guerrilla had multiplayer in Killzone, but like, those weren't multiplayer games. Those were games that were single player shooters first and foremost, and they were tech pieces. Like, Herman Holtz has always struck me as a tech guy, a guy who really wanted to like lead innovation in what engines are we using. Like, they developed their own engine internally, and then they started licensing it out to Kojima and stuff. He does very much so seem like a guy who that is his like interest, is enabling developers to make different kinds of things and games and stuff like that. So whether that be that like maybe he thought this was the best way to enable developers was to get them all making multiplayer games that would get them a shitload of money, I don't know. But like, I think ultimately like Herman Holtz is probably just a businessman at this point. Like, he's less of a developer and more of a businessman. And this is the shift that happens when you become a businessman.
Yep. I think, a lot of people in chat are kind of being like, Nishino also seemed to be on board with live service stuff. Yeah. This seems like copium. And that's, yes, I think I tend to agree with that. I think, these corporate leadership teams, like I think we want to assign like character sheets to the people that run these companies and be like, this is the kind of person they are and this is the kind of things they're into, and it's like, they're all just trying to make money for these companies, and they'll kind of go along with the flow if it seems like the new thing is going to do that, and then when it doesn't, they will maybe retreat to something that is familiar. But I think Herman Holst and Nishino are equally guys that would be willing to produce games that are big, single-player, narrative-driven games that Sony is known for. So, yeah, you probably will get more of that, but Sony is still looking around for what's next, as we always say on the show, and they just don't know what it is.
It is going to be interesting because I talked about it on Blue Sky a while ago, like, the dearth of first-party games that seem to be far into development within Sony is really kind of staggering. Like, you have Insomniac working on their stuff, which may or may not come out this year. You have Ghost of Your Toy, and you have the Naughty Dog game. But then apart from that, almost every other studio has either just released a game or had their games either cancelled or the studio itself shut down, like Neon Koi, Firewalk, and there's a third one. All studios were shut down within the last 12 months. So whether Sony are going to be making a load of third-party deals or something, or whether they are just like, hey, we don't have exclusives for a while, and they wind up in the same boat as Microsoft, where Microsoft doesn't really have exclusives anymore either, by default. Yeah. It's a weird fucking time for games. Like, suddenly exclusives seem like more of a burden than
they seem like a liability. Yeah, they're a liability. They are. That is a thing sitting on your books that is not making you the money it could be making. And to what end? I said it months ago, and I probably will actually finally make that video now that this news just kind of keeps hitting harder and harder. PlayStation won the console war, and so what? They have to figure out what's next.
The super interesting thing will be, how much does Microsoft market this Indiana Jones Porsche to PS5? How much do they push it? Do they try to give it like this is the second push of the game?
I think 100% is, yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't in that developer direct, which kind of leads you to believe like, oh, they're just going to do like a separate thing for it. They're going to like do a separate marketing campaign for it. So I do think they will think of this as like almost like early access 1.0 is a second launch for a game nowadays. They're thinking of bringing it to PlayStation as like as big as a second launch.
I think you might be onto something. All right, just real quick before we move on, PlayStation just dropped a blog post saying that the PlayStation Network accounts will be optional on PC going forward. Let's see here. I'll just read this headline. Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and God of War Ragnarok to offer in-game content unlocks for users playing with the PlayStation Network account. But those are bonuses to like entice you to sign up, and they're going to instead make it optional so you don't have to. Yeah, so details on new benefits for players who opt to sign in with an account for PlayStation Network. Like for Spider-Man 2, early unlock suits, you get the Spider-Man 2099 black suit and the Miles Morales 2099 suit early. So it's going to be things like that, which is probably the right move for this sort of thing. Make people feel like they're getting something, and they will be more likely to do it. And then that's opposed to, okay, sure, not everyone's going to do it to get this stuff early. Some people just won't even care. They won't pay attention. Sure. And you're going to miss out on their data. I'm sorry, but this way you get people who are excited to, or at least a little bit more excited to sign up and won't whine about being forced to sign with the PlayStation Network on PC, which is, God, I really do hate signing into these third-party things when I launch a Steam game these days, Lexi. That EA launcher thing, it sits open in the background on my computer, like asking me for my name and password, and I'm like, motherfucker, I don't know it and I don't care to learn it. Just leave me alone.
I've been streaming all of the Call of Duty Black Ops games because I'd like never beat a Call of Duty campaign before. And I was like, listen, Black Ops is a continuous series in some ways. So this is a really interesting way to see the breadth of this of the Call of Duty franchise. And I got to Cold War, and it's like, sign into your Activision account, and a part of me fucking died.
I mean, and that was like, so annoying.
I don't know what this password is. I had to spend like 15 minutes off stream trying to figure out like what fucking email did I have this tied to, like, and then I had to go and do it for Black Ops 6 as well, and I was just like, God, this sucks. This sucks. It is wild it took them this long to figure out, like, hey, we have to give people to do something, like, to get them to do something they don't want.
Yep.
Like, people won't just do shit because you tell them they should, especially if they literally can't. Like, there are places where you just can't sign in to PSN because the PSN doesn't operate in that country.
Yeah. Sean says no one in games media uses a password manager. I do, but like you got to remember, Sean, how like just I could turn my brain off and be that lazy, or I'm like, I don't want to. Like I have a lot of passwords in there, so I'm like I'd have to like I could use the search function. It's just so like 2% annoying that I just hate it. And I have done it. I have signed in before.
We need password managers is just the fucking like worst.
Yes, exactly. And then I'll do it, and then it'll be like, okay, well we signed you out for security reasons after a week. Sign in again. I'm like I don't want to do this. Yeah, the Activision one is so especially annoying because they have changed their accounts tied to Call of Duty so many times that I'm just like, which one are you asking for?
It's fascinating playing through all those games in order because you're basically doing like 3 to 4 year jumps in time and seeing like the way, even in the campaigns of like them being like, how do we fucking make this next one different, to the menus just getting like more and more fucking god awful. It's really fascinating to like compare those games. That first game, I'm still thinking about it. That first game is 7.5 gigabytes. That first Black Ops game, Black Ops Cold War, is 189 gigabytes.
Yep, they got
and it cost $700 million to make.
That's no doubt. All right, let's move on to Xbox here. Despite Xbox's struggle in hardware, Microsoft was reportedly the top video game publisher in December. This is from George Yang at GameSpot. Let's read through this. Microsoft was apparently the #1 video game publisher in December 2024, despite struggling to sell Xbox hardware. Its success here is attributed to Call of Duty, according to global data. To be clear, this data applies to Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. As such, it does not paint a full or complete picture, as Microsoft also owns and operates mobile gaming titles like Candy Crush and Call of Duty Mobile. According to data from Ampere, Call of Duty HQ, which comprises Black Ops 6, Warzone, and other Call of Duty games, drew in 38 monthly users. That's probably 38 million monthly users, probably, you think, in November 2024. And 64% of consumer spending on Microsoft titles in December was through PlayStation, mostly on Call of Duty. It's like, well, yeah, duh. Like Call of Duty is going to was going to swing that in the PlayStation direction immediately, so that's not too surprising. Microsoft's position as the top publisher in 2024 also included sales of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, or the Fantastic Circle, depending on who you are, which was released in December. Ampere
really swell circle.
Really swell. So you did a good job on that circle, Andy. Ampere also noted that Electronic Arts generated 366 million, over the same period, putting it second to Microsoft. EA Sports FC 25 was the biggest driver for EA's success, although it still underperformed according to EA's internal expectations. Chinese publishers like NetEase and Tencent pulled in impressive numbers as well. Ampere estimated that Marvel Rivals brought in 29 million monthly active users, and Path of Exile 2 generated $148 million. This is an incomplete picture. It's also, I think, Ampere's internal estimations, which are always going to be projections for the most part. They will have access to a lot more data than we do, but not all the data. The fact that they are just looking at Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox does leave out massive swaths of China and a lot of other important markets. So, yeah, Microsoft probably is actually now the #1 publisher, very close to Tencent, or very close to Tencent. But this was the whole end goal here for that big acquisition, really. I think during that acquisition, they were probably talking internally. They were talking internally about, like, what are we going to do with exclusives? But very quickly, it's like, this is so expensive. And what is the point of doing this if we are not going to kind of try to grow beyond the confines of the Xbox hardware? And they have done exactly that. And now they are #1, and it has changed the landscape overall. How do you read all this?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, hardware has never been the part of the selling video games that has been profitable. Like, it's always been the loss leader, but it worked in such a way that once you had the console out and everyone was paying you 30% to get their games on it, that money just exponentially grew really quickly for you.
Yeah.
Now it's at the point where that money isn't enough, so suddenly the best way to make money is just be a publisher. And if you have to make a console to do that as well, then sure. But it's been fascinating to watch Xbox tread this line of we're still making boxes and we don't want to alienate our audience and we don't want to upset people, but also like, guys, we just need these video games to make fucking money. And we need them to sell everywhere because ultimately there aren't as many Xboxes in the wild as there would need to be for these games to make their money back. And how they push those onto different platforms is seeing like very mixed results. Like, I don't think I've talked to fucking anyone that has played a game through cloud streaming on their phone.
Right.
But it's there, and their thought process is eventually people will want to do that. And like, I'm skeptical, but
Sure.
They're planning for it. A lot of Xbox's stuff seems to be the long game, and it's very weird because Xbox has always seemed to be playing the long game, and it's never quite worked out how they expected it to. So it kind of just seems like a series of failed bets in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I
like even when they were like, the new Xbox is going to be your TV platform all in one, they were half right about like people wanting an all-in-one platform. They were wrong that it's just going to be the TV that's all in one platform.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that is where like this current iteration of Xbox begins to just feel like, okay, they've just accepted that a lot of those I don't know if they believe cloud is going to be much of a thing anymore. They don't invest much into it. They have not made that service much better recently. And they maybe long term they're still like, yeah, that could be a thing. But I think they're looking at like the way people have behaved on mobile. And like the way those Resident Evil games have sold, and be like, it's just a different audience, and they're not going to want these games. And so we will go out and buy Candy Crush instead, and we'll get money through those games that they actually want. And then so that gives them money now. And it's like, okay, well, the hardware is not the answer, or trying to have the walled garden is not the answer. So let's have some service games. We already have Minecraft. What else can we get like that? Call of Duty. So now we're making a lot of money now. It kind of feels like this is just the blunt instrument to attack the weaknesses of the platform that they had. And it's working in that. Yeah, this is now a company that makes a lot of money through video games. And really, I don't know. When I look at it. Look at Call of Duty, look at Minecraft, and a lot of the other, even like a Sea of Thieves, a game that they put out onto multiple platforms now, and every time it grows pretty large, a large audience on those platforms. And Microsoft does seem maybe more set up for the future than PlayStation at this moment. Even the immediate future. I think the one misstep is.
Like Xbox have games coming out in some form. Yeah. Like Sony is a big question mark. Xbox, they had their developer director and it was like, okay, you have like a lot of stuff for the first half of 2025, and it seems like you have stuff for the second half too. Like after all this time, and it's like fucking someone who keeps on fucking up and then like telling you that they're going to be better next time, and you're like so hesitant to believe them, but this time it seems like they're actually meanish of like, no, we're going to get like a good slate of games for the entire year. We're going to get like releases every 2 months. We swear. I don't know. It's so hard to believe them sometimes.
Right. And it's also like your friend that was going to get their shit together, and you're like, okay, well, great. And then they always failed. And then now the way that they're getting their shit together is kind of unseemly. Like they become like gym bros, and they're just like, okay, this is not what we meant. We kind of wanted you to just make really fun games for your thing that we wanted to play. And now you're like, look at how much money we're making from Call of Duty. That's like, oh, okay. All right. Well, good for you, I guess. I can't hate it, I suppose, but I don't love it either. I think that continues to be like the one area where, hey, I think if PlayStation continues to make the games they're making, they're always going to have stuff that's in that mix for Game of the Year, stuff that gamer-ass gamers really love. And in the meantime, is that going to be a long-term solution to the growth that PlayStation's looking for? I don't know, but I think at this point, I'm even kind of like more interested in like what a lot of those Sony studios might end up doing after this latest round of the call of all the live service games. And yet, 10 years from now, I think we'll look back at these years and be like, wow, Microsoft really set itself up for the future and has a much better grasp on where things were headed. Not that will end up with us getting a lot of cool games that I am into in any way. All right. Got a lot more to talk about. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the latest on the new MLB and Bloodline rules in a wrestling game right after this. All right, so let's get back into it. Let's see here. MLB The Show 25 is coming in March, but this time it won't be on Game Pass or last-gen consoles. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Sony has unveiled MLB The Show 25 ahead of the game's release on March 18th, 2025. The game will be released for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch, with early access available from March 14th for players who purchase the digital deluxe edition for $100. Lexi, what's your favorite baseball team? Oh, busy with Doom guy.
The one in Yakuza 5 that the guy played for before he got kicked out. It's a whole crime story.
That's right.
You should play Yakuza, Grubb.
That is actually the right answer. Congratulations, okay. You got it correct.
Work away.
Yeah. This is the MLB The Show 22, 23, and 24 all came to Game Pass, and now they're not doing Game Pass anymore. They're probably like, okay, we have like properly fertilized the ground. Yes, exactly. And now there is an audience that expects this game on Xbox, and we'll just sell this new one to them. And it's possible the amount of money that they would ask Xbox to give them now, like, went up drastically or something like that. So yeah, this makes some sense. Also, cutting off last gen, so that means no PS4 version, no Xbox One version, but you still get a Nintendo Switch version. So they're making one that would run on that stuff, but they're like, that maybe that audience isn't there anymore. So this is not necessarily just a technical thing, although even if you do have a Nintendo Switch version, not having to port and support two other devices is still going to save you money. But really, I wonder
if they're also at the point that like FIFA is at, where the Nintendo Switch versions are only like roster updates.
Yeah, I wonder that too. I don't think it's as aggressive as the way it is with FIFA, where it's just like, yeah, it is the same exact game and they just update the rosters. But it's probably pretty close to that. Either way, though, I think, hey, that last gen is finally done. It feels like sports games are finally stopping support for PS4. So if that was something that was like, a hang up for people, yeah, maybe we really are moving on from that. Does that mean that these generations, that the generation that we're in that is, turning 5 years old, is actually getting started for real? Still doesn't feel that way in a lot of ways. But hey. There's
a great thing in my local toy store, which is like the only place that still sells physical video games in Ireland, where for about 18 months now, they have had a coming soon section. And in the coming soon section, there's been boxes for Rugby 25, which was originally called Rugby 24, which is still in early access and continues to be delayed. So when that comes out, I'll talk to everyone about sports games. But last time I played it, it wasn't good.
Oh, weird. Yeah. Man, that comes for all these sports games. NHL's been crap for years. It's rough out there. We'll see. I bet MLB The Show has built up that audience, and Xbox will do just fine. I wonder if the Switch version will get a significant update for Switch 2, or if they'll just like let this one ride and then make a new one for Switch 2 the following year. Be curious to see all that. But yeah. Shoutouts to MLB. MLB The Show actually still continues to be one of the better sports games if you can stomach baseball, which I get. All right, Bloodline rules and intergender wrestling headline new match types for WWE 2K25. This is from Jake Valentine at Dual Shockers. The latest entry in WWE 2K franchise is paying respect to the Bloodline, with Roman Reigns set to grace the game's cover. 2K and Visual Concepts are ready to announce the new match types players can expect in WWE 2K25. Bloodline rules is coming to WWE 2K25 based on the popular WWE match type, most famously seen at WrestleMania. Is that 40? Yeah, that'd be 40. Main event between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. It is known for featuring several run-ins interrupting the match. Visual Concepts wanted to pay respects to its unique rules and quirks. I mean, it's Lex, you know this. It's just a no holds barred, no rules at all, anything goes kind of street fight, right?
Will the hot goth lady be in it?
So that this is actually important for the other one. So the intergender wrestling match means that the hot goth lady can beat the hell out of Dominic Mysterio, which is what we all want. This is the thing that we've all been waiting for. So
yes,
we've ascended and we've reached now. WWE games in the past have definitely had intergender wrestling where you could have people hit a lady with a chair in the background and no one ever said anything, and then they haven't done that for years.
But now that's 2025 and politics have changed enough.
You can hit a woman again in a video game. I mean, yeah, really, we just want Rhea Ripley to hit Dominic Mysterio. So there it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I've seen that guy's mullet. He looks like a scumbag.
God, he's the number one scumbag. God,
He seems like he's really good at being a scumbag.
he's so good at being a scumbag. It's the best. Like he's found ways to like turn up his scumbagness. He's the one heel that had a heel turn while still being a heel. It's an incredible thing. He's an artist.
He is the most Australian looking American I have ever seen in my life. Like he looks like he drives a ute.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And he plays like Aussie rules football. Like he's incredible.
And it's like no offense, but yes offense to everybody that was mentioned there. Australians, Americans, and especially Dominic Mysterio. God, yeah, the guy's actually knows what he's doing and is very good at it. All right, let's just keep going here. Baldur's Gate 3 is getting local co-op for Xbox S or Xbox Series S very soon. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Larian Studios has officially moved on from Baldur's Gate 3, but they can't quite let go. And late last year, it was revealed that they have patch 8 in the works. Now they've sent it out to select participants and told us more about it in a blog post, complete with a big surprise. The studio writes, wanting to play multiplayer a little closer to home, patch 8 will also bring split screen to Xbox Series S consoles. This feature has been said to be one of the major problems Larian had with Baldur's Gate 3 for Xbox Series S, which caused the game to be delayed by several months for Xbox, while the feature is only coming now. Better late than never, as they say. So, God, I think it's just interesting that this is something like once they got the approval from Microsoft to not have to put this into Xbox Series S if they wanted to release it for Xbox Series X with this feature, I kind of figured it'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, how many people are really going to end up using that anyhow? So that, yeah, go ahead and just release it on Xbox Series S, let people play that game the way they're mostly going to play. And if they really want this, they can get a different device and play it there. And they'll never add this in later, even if they figure out, because why do that work for something so minuscule? But hey, no, they're doing it, and they're kind of like, okay, now we have the feature complete version on all these devices where it's available. And I think that's pretty impressive that they actually were able to pull this off and actually saw it through.
It's been really fun seeing Larry and be like, this is our last patch like 4 or 5 times at this point. Those are good people over there. I have bumped into a few of the people from Larry in Dublin a few times, and they all seem very cool. That's mainly like a narrative team over there out of that office. But yeah, this is impressive that they managed to get this working. I guess some of this is stuff that does come with a console getting on in age as people find out how to optimize it more and you do things that you didn't think you could do, but it's rare that people actually go back and implement those learnings, especially for like a game that I can't imagine has its biggest player base on Xbox, and certainly wouldn't have its biggest player base on Series S, because that seems like a weird way to play that game. Like, as someone who played most of that game on Steam Deck, docked to a TV, it's not great playing it at low res. Like, it looks pretty smeary on lower end hardware.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I people pointing out in chat, maybe they did this because they were getting this ready for Switch 2. And so they were already doing the work, and that just made it easier to get ready for Xbox Series S. But still, it's like, that's impressive that they added it in there. I think you're right, though. Not the ideal way to play a game like this. That is so detailed. It actually probably does run at a decent resolution on Xbox Series S. This was like a CPU thing. So maybe they were able to get over it, or maybe a RAM thing. I'm not sure. It was probably a RAM thing, actually, now that I think about it. So yeah, hey, very cool. Do you think this really is the last patch?
I don't know. The people at that studio fucking love working on that game. Like, they've made that part of the culture, is that they enjoy working on Baldur's Gate 3. But also, I'm guessing that they are pretty keen to have a wholly owned project that they can work on, that isn't partly owned by Wizard of the Coast. Or Wizards of the Coast, so that they can support that easier for longer.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, let's see real quick. This got announced that, yes, WarioWare 64 on Blue Sky shared this. Starting in January 2026, PS4 games will no longer be a key benefit and will only be occasionally offered for PlayStation Plus monthly games and game catalog. We may still provide titles that can be playable on both PS4 and PS5 consoles after this date. So basically, they're just like dropping the, hey, you're guaranteed to get 2 PS4 games as part of this deal. As part of your, that'd be the PS Plus Essentials subscription tier, I think, where this month you get Payday 3 and High on Life and Pac-Man World Repack. Going forward,
all the stars are here.
All the stars are here. Going forward, they may have PS4 games offered in there, but they may not as well, and that will be.
I mean, when you
a year from now.
When you compare this to previous generations, that's a fucking ridiculous run.
Yes.
Because I only started getting PS Plus when I bought a PS4 because you needed to pay for the online for the first time. And so I have that back end of PS3 games also on my account. And like, that didn't last very long. It lasted like, I think maybe 12 months, maybe 12 or 13 months.
Yep.
I think one of the final games on there was like Yakuza 5 1 month, and then what was it? Metal Gear Solid 4 for the final month. And those were the last like big games that they added to it. So like those weren't that late era PS3. So yeah, it's interesting that it's lasted almost 6 years by the time this comes to an end. That's when they're like, we're no longer supporting it, which is wild.
Yeah, I think trying to remember, like, does Xbox's equivalent, like games with gold, like, God, is that even still
doesn't
going?
exist.
Yeah.
No,
they got rid of that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So okay.
There's no way to like buy or get games that you own through a subscription service on Xbox anymore. And they still do have Xbox Live Gold, but it's just to play online, I think.
Right. Yeah. It's like did they rename it to that one's like the Xbox Game Pass Basic or something like that? I can't keep it straight anymore.
Yeah. It's a fucking mess. There's 4 tiers of Game Pass, and Gold was like folded into
Game
one
Pass
of them.
Core.
And I can't.
Thank you, Second Chan. Man, they still use that core term. I think like even before that, they had begun not supporting some of the older consoles much sooner than that, which made sense. They were kind of like, I remember some of those months, they'd be like, here are the games with gold for this month. They'd be like, ooh, this is grim. This is not a great selection. And it was that way for many months in a row. So when they cut that off, it was like, okay, yeah, no one was really complaining. We're glad.
It is like, it's so fucking wild to think of developers still supporting the Xbox One console.
Yeah.
Like when you think about what that machine is and what's inside it and like what it must take to get things running on it in like, it's like fucking making web apps for fucking Windows 7 or something. Like, it's wild.
It's and it's really why the like John Carson in chat points out, like, what a strange transitional non-generation this has been. Really just has felt that way for a number of reasons, but of course the lumbering corpse of the Xbox One VCR edition is definitely a big part of that. Just like every once in a while a game will be like, hey, we support this. So, and it's like weird.
Rob, I'm sharing this in chat right now. I'll book the link because it's Blue Sky. The other night, last night, because this is the life I lead, I was looking at different versions of Space Harrier, like all the different versions that they made for it, and I found the most gnarly, fucked up version I have ever seen of a video game. They made a version of Space Harrier for the Sharp MZ, and holy shit, it is one of the worst looking things I've ever seen in my life.
I want to see if I could see. Oh no, Nikki broke the link too. If I just copy this link and paste it, will
yeah,
work?
If you copy it, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is messed up. That is okay.
It's so good. It's so good.
That's amazing. Oh man,
it's incredible.
Let's see if I can share this with people.
Like, this is what I think of whenever people talk about like, oh, video games were better back in my day, and it's like, no, dude. Like, you were going home and you had a home computer and you were being charged like 60 to 70 to $80 for this. And there was no way for you to know that this is what the game looked like when you plugged it in. And then you plugged it in and you were like, well, I guess I'm fucking playing this now.
I don't know. I think this might be kind of better. I'm looking at it. I'm feeling things. It's like, ooh, that's hot shit right there. I love how messed up this is.
It's so good.
All right. Well, okay. I'm gonna try to play that version of Space Harrier. It's nuts that like these kinds of versions of those games existed.
I love his little leg animations.
Yes,
It's just
like,
two blocks flipping back and forth.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I think let's hit this. Destiny 2 is getting Star Wars gear in latest crossover collaboration. This is from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot. Destiny is getting crossover content with one of the biggest sci-fi franchises, as Bungie has announced a partnership with Lucasfilm to bring Star Wars content to Destiny 2. Launching February 4th with the Destiny 2 Heresy update, the Star Wars content includes new armor, ornaments, accessories, emotes, and finishers that are inspired by Star Wars, quote unquote. More specifically, the armor ornaments include one per Guardian class, and they are inspired by soldiers of the Galactic Empire. You can get a glimpse of the new armor where it's, they're all variations on like stormtroopers.
It's weird that they're all stormtroopers. I mean, it's weird that it's like, hey, do you want to dress up as the space Nazis? Jeff Backlund's going to love this update. He's going to get way into
he's been clamoring
Destiny
for
2. But everyone else is like, this is a bit weird.
It's a necessity, right? When they're trying to make Destiny make sense with these collaborations, and it's like, well, we can't just put fucking Han Solo in there, right? We gotta make something that kind of looks like it makes sense in Destiny, and that leads you to Stormtroopers, the Red Imperial Guards, and then I think the Death Troopers or Shock Troopers or something like that. And
it's admirable how much they've tried to keep the spirit of Destiny alive while doing these crossovers, but also they're still doing the crossovers, so inherently people are like, well, it's just another one of these games that has been taken by like the entropy of crossover culture, and how that's the only way to generate money for a live service game in the long run.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it didn't work in terms of like trying to like maintain the dignity of Destiny, because when I glanced at this headline, and I like in my feedly, and I saw the image of the Stormtrooper and the Death Trooper and the Imperial Guard, I'm like, oh, okay, more Star Wars stuff in Fortnite. I just assumed it was Fortnite. So it's like, yeah, sure, I guess this looks like it can make sense in Destiny, but I looked at it and thought, that's Fortnite.
I honestly think the thing that made it even worse from my reaction to it was I looked at it and I went, man, I miss Destiny 1.
Yeah.
And I was nostalgic for the heady days of Destiny 1. And like this season is also bringing Oryx back, who was a big character in Destiny 1. And so like it feels like they are kind of also at that point too. I really hope Marathon is good. There's some really cool people doing some really cool work on that, but I just don't know if there is space for it in the market. And that sucks.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to talk about this one real quick. This happened earlier this week, but it had a big effect on Nvidia. So biggest market loss in history, Nvidia stock sheds nearly $600 billion as DeepSeek shakes AI darling. This is from Derek Saul at Forbes. Everyone riot in the streets. It's a good time. We're taking it all down. Nvidia set a dubious Wall Street record Monday as the stock at the forefront of the U.S.-led artificial intelligence revolution got a scare from DeepSeek, the Chinese AI company which developed a chat GPT rival at a fraction of the reported cost of its American peers. They have some key facts in this story that say shares of Nvidia plunged 17% by close, suffering its worst daily percentage loss since March 2020, when stocks briefly crashed at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nvidia lost $589 billion in market capitalization Monday, which is by far the single greatest one-day value wipeout of any company in history, more than doubling the $279 billion market cap lost by none other than Nvidia. On September 3rd, 2024. Meta's $251 billion loss February 3rd in 2022 is the third biggest daily loss. The slide knocked Nvidia from its position as the world's most valuable company, sending its valuation from $3.5 trillion to $2.9 trillion. How will they be able to live with themselves with only being worth $2.9 trillion? Less than Apple's and Microsoft's
Apple
value.
Just go home. I don't get up in the morning for $209 trillion. Just fuck it.
To put it in perspective, $600 billion like that they lost in value is more than the worth of all publicly traded companies except for 13. There are only 13 companies worth more than that. So they've lost. That's how much they lost. I think that this is fascinating in a lot of ways because, boy, I think it's not a coincidence that China held on to DeepSeek until Donald Trump was president. This definitely feels like hey, you're going to start your trade war, and you're going to put on a lot of tariffs, and you're coming for China. We have ways of attacking you as well. Your entire economy propped up by the AI revolution, right? And you are trying to lock us out because you're not going to sell us chips. Biden signed a thing. Like, we're not going to sell the best AI chips to China. It's illegal to do that. And then on top of that, like, clearly the strategy was, let's build AI in such a way that it does really do everything and becomes so expensive to compete with that we control it 100%, and it becomes a tool of the United States and its financial partners. And no one else can really get in on that party unless they're invited by these companies that are in the United States. And
it really feels like a come to God moment for the AI market, because it's everyone going like, oh, they made this for way cheaper, and like it's about as good, but also it still sucks.
Yeah.
It still isn't doing things that we promised it would do, or that would actually be useful.
And it really, just because I think it's the reality is, AI, even when you do talk about the best AI that they spent all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars on, that also wasn't very good. And so an open source solution released by China, and let's not kid ourselves, this is not China's real thing that they're working on for AI. They 100% have the more expensive version that does do everything that they're working on in secret. This is a targeted attack to affect the economy of the United States. And it's like the fact that is possible does show how shaky this all was, and how it was a house of cards, and that the AI was not really close to getting to the point where they thought it would be worth all that money. So that's what we've heard, OpenAI say a bunch of times. Oh, okay, well, we're almost there. We just need a few more hundreds of billions of dollars. We need another round of investment to do another round of massive training. And it's like, oh, okay.
The wolf's at old Gil's door.
What happened to all that other money for making all that thing that could just make a movie when you just wrote a sentence? What happened to that? Why won't you share that with us? I thought you said it was ready to go. It's because it sucks. And so, China
sucks, and also I wouldn't be shocked to hear that maybe not all that money made it to the project.
Oh, sure, yeah, of course not. Yes, it's going to be there's going to be corruption the entire way. Sure, it's just, if this was our big bet from ensuring the soundness of the global economy. This is a really bad sign. And if this is only the beginning, the opening shot of this economic Cold War between China and the United States that's going to happen over the next 4 years, we're all going to get caught in the crossfire, and it's going to be real rough.
For people who are like, let's invest in gold,
Yep.
Like, the gold standard's coming back, baby.
Well, I'll take some AI gold, I guess. All right. Yep, a couple more stories in here. Dino Crisis 1 and Dino Crisis 2 have been re-released right now on PC, DRM-free, as part of GOG's ongoing efforts to preserve games of the past. This is pretty cool. It comes from Alexander Cope at Windows Central. Not content with just re-releasing the original Resident Evil trilogy on PC, GOG has decided to take things further by announcing that it has re-released Capcom's classic Dino Crisis and Dino Crisis 2 right now for PC. Improvements for each game, as stated on GOG's official website, include full compatibility with Windows 10 and 11, all localizations of the game, original, arrange, and Operation Wipeout modes are included, improved DirectX game rendering, new rendering options, windowed mode, vertical synchronization control, blah, 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 a bunch of stuff in there. Basically, they are doing everything to make these games solid for the future going forward. They will just kind of work for a very long time on PC. This is a very cool thing that GOG does, and I'm glad that Dino Crisis got this treatment.
Yeah, and the extra cool thing about this is it went hand in hand with GOG announcing that they're bringing back #building the list.
Yes, the GOG Dream List.
Adam Boy's out there reviving #building the list with his new venture. He's not actually doing that. But yeah, the Dream List sounds like an actual good and interesting thing that I like the idea of.
Yeah, in addition, GOG has announced it's launching the GOG Dream List, a place where gamers can cast their votes on what classic old school games GOG should revive next in their crusade to save old video games from becoming lost media. Let's see here. There's a Sean note here. I wonder what that means. I think this is all really neat, and you might get more juice out of this squeeze than asking the nice Irish lady about American baseball and pro wrestling. I don't know who that note is for. Yeah, I'm very excited about this. What game would you want to see them do next? Not that an old game to you is apparently not Space Harrier.
Yeah, I know they did that Stranglehold one. That was really cool. So maybe cool. Some more of those weird like 360 games that are in Limbo and aren't backwards compatible. I'd be way into those games that kind of like. What I'm saying is 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand, bring it back.
50 Cent Blood on the Sand, he hits a ramp and gets a crystal skull. It's pretty dope.
Did I tell you about, there was a time I was playing that game. I was playing through it in 2023, as you do. And as I was playing it, I was like, I should just turn on the matchmaking, just in case. And someone joined and started like Sherpering me through. And then a few days later, I started playing it again. And I opened up the matchmaking and the same guy joined. And I was like, who is this person playing it? And then I like tweeted about it. And the guy fucking was like, replied to the tweet being like, that's me. I just play this game. And like followed me. And I was like, okay. I now have a 50 Cent Blood in the Sand stan following me.
That rules. It was probably Tony Yayao. I bet it was almost certainly Tony Yayao. I don't know how to say Tony Yayao. I think that's it.
I think it's Yao, but okay.
Yao. Yeah, sure. All right, yeah, or maybe it was Curtis himself. They're all mad at me.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I knew it too. I always read it that way in my head. I'm like, that's not how anyone's ever said it, but that's just how I've always read it. All right, let's see here. I think let's move on to the poll question from yesterday. There we go. Have you played a local multiplayer game with another person? PS5. That's for today. This is from Monday. Do you still buy physical games? 55% say yes. 45% say no. I am mostly in the no category. I suppose I have bought a physical game in the last year or so, but I really wouldn't count myself as a yes on this. How about you?
I have a lot of PS4 and PS5 and 360 physical games, which kind of came from over the course of the pandemic, was right around the time that like I started to have my own disposable income because of like disability allowance and pandemic money, and then I had nothing to spend it on. So I was like, oh, I'll just buy some games that are cheap now, that are down to like €20. So now I've wound up with this collection of loads of games I'm never going to play, including the 8 copies of Balan Wonderworld I still have sitting on a coffee table downstairs.
Of course, yeah. That's it though. Only 8.
I gave away 4 of them.
Okay.
Generously. And apparently some people didn't appreciate that.
I mean, generous is one word for it. They're still talking about G Unit in chat. My memory of G Unit is being in Boy Scouts and the Scoutmaster's son giving a 10-minute speech about G Unit and me just really wanting to leave. I was never much of a G Unit fella myself.
They're dragging you for you said Gene Unit. Yeah.
I'm just like mashing the 2 words together. I'm saying G Unit, but G Unit, it just comes out that way. Gene Unit 2 is very good. But yeah.
Well, it's really hard to be like whiter than an Irish person.
Oh, no, it's not. You gotta just be from Ohio.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. All right, let's see here. Got a new poll question we'll get to here in a second. But first, Lexi, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
You can find me on Blue Sky at basically Lexi, basically ending in an I, and Lexi ending in an I. I also run Start Menu, a website for young people trying to break into the games industry. We are in the process of working on bringing back our podcast. You might see some fun guests on that over the course of February, if they have the free time. We also have a new copy editor, which is fucking awesome because it allows me to do some like actual stuff and plan some things for us. We have a Patreon, which is going super well. And you can also find me writing freelance stuff for Shack News. I have a piece for Gamer Guides, or I have a review of Like a Dragon for Gamer Guides that will go up next month. But yeah, I'm trying to keep busy, trying to be around the place. I'm also streaming on twitch.tv/basically Lexi. I might stream after this and continue playing Black Ops. I might play Black Ops 6. I downloaded Black Ops 6 on the Xbox, didn't download the campaign.
Oh, fun. That's that can happen, it turns out, with those games. Yeah.
And Sean's going to be mad at me being like, oh, it's so easy. Sean, have you seen what a fucking mess those menus are? It's a fucking nightmare. I was a shockingly big fan of the Black Ops Cold War campaign. People told me it wasn't great, but at the beginning of that game, it lets you choose your character's background. And so obviously I made my character a non-binary KGB agent, ex-KGB agent. And then the big plot twist at the end of that game is that you've actually been playing a guy who got MK Ultra'd by the CIA into thinking that he's the character that you created at the beginning of the game. So literally the US government transed my gender. Which is fucking awesome. That game is awesome.
That sounds like a good time, but also sounds very Black Ops. Boy, that sounds like that's something they would do in that game.
Yeah, it's great.
Anything else you got going on?
Not much. You can catch me on Blue Sky talking about rugby every now and again and talking about games mainly.
Excellent. All right. Let's get to the new poll question. Let's see here. Yes. Have you played a local multiplayer game with another person on the PS5 or Xbox Series X/S? Yes. No. Those are your options. You can vote now. Go to youtube.com/@giantbomb. There's a community tab there. Hit that. You'll find all the poll questions. Go ahead and vote. We'll get the results, talk about them on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb. Tomorrow, speaking of Giant Bomb, later today, we will have Blight Club returning. Dan still is in the midst of Drake of the 99 Dragons. I always want to say and the 99 Dragons, but he is among them. Yes, please.
Did you see what I sent? I sent it on to Nikki and I sent it on to I think Sean and Mike, the voice actor for that. For Drake, I found a podcast that he did, and boy, it's interesting.
Oh, fun. Would he say that he just was hoping that Drake wouldn't be annoying and woke?
No, but I'm pretty sure if he was to do a podcast now, he would say that.
Okay.
It was. Let me find my messages to Nikki.
Yeah,
I'll read out the name of this podcast.
Yeah, okay, sure. Let's dox a podcast. Yeah.
Guest Monty Reed, voice talent on Tim Rostro's Creative Christians.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's all. I mean, God, if there's one thing Drake of the 99 Dragons has going for it, it's very pious voice acting. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
All right. We will get to Blight Club later today. Tomorrow we'll have some fun stuff. Voicemail dump truck. We'll fit in like either some Virtua Fighter, Sniper Elite. We don't know. We'll see how we're feeling. And then on Friday, we'll have more Game S Mornings, BCR. We'll do our best music of 2024 or favorite music of 2024, however we frame that. And then we'll have a UPF where I think we might actually play that Orcs Must Die game. Why not? I like playing bad games.
It's fun co-op. It is like...
Okay. Yeah, I bet it is.
Underneath the terrible progression, there is still a fun game in there, which is why it's frustrating. It's just a very difficult game to review and then feel like good about, because you're looking at like, oh, this would take so long to actually get to the end game.
Right.
So yeah.
And like recommending that to individuals. It's like, yeah, but I bet we'll have a good time. All right. I think that's going to do it. We already did the other poll question. We asked where we could find you on the internet. So then at this point, I think I just say, Lex Luddy, thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about video games. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to my book.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good book, Doom Guy. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. All right, we are off of